Hello everyone. Today we'll be discussing visual narrative series. So in the last module we covered advertisement, and today we'll be talking about series. Now how the development of series in India took place starting from the time of Doordarshan to today what we know as web series. Now it is interesting to note that these all fall into the category of what we call as popular culture. The trends that we are going to talk about also, because it is catering to a mass, it is about consumption, the media consumption. In a way, it doesn't have anything concrete to hold on to as a material, but the content that we are discussing today itself acts as a text or material in the larger study of popular culture studies. So let's see and talk about where we trace the beginning. Broadcasting in India began in 1923, and by 1927 Indian Broadcasting Company was established in Bombay and Calcutta. So these were the two main centers where these broadcasting stations were set up by the Indian Broadcasting Company. Since it is the pre-independence era, we do not see the emergence of series in this phase. It is only after the independence of India that we now see so many series coming up, because we relied on Doordarshan. So Doordarshan was the only hope for us where people could watch series or telefilms as it was known earlier. We will look into the difference in nomenclatures that are used, like series, soaps, and also we have telefilms, etc. Now, a person called Lionel Filden of BBC became the controller of broadcasting in India in the year 1935, and also of All India Radio. So both of them in a way started under him, and it is quite remarkable to see how the development from here took place in the era of in the area of what we call as TV broadcasting. Now television came in India only in 1959. So till 35 to 59, the Indian audience did not had the opportunity to have the pleasure of television. And with 1959, we see 21 TV sets were provided in rural locations near Delhi, and another 50 were provided by UNESCO. So this gave an establishment into the country where we could now see broadcasting happening in India. The first phase, as we call, of television or TV series, it is basically to it fulfill the social objectives of education and farmers uh, program, and based on children. Now when Doordarshan launched its program, we see that it was basically more of what we call as educational programs about the farmers or children. And later on we see that the growth of TV had slowed down, because only by 1972 All India Radio got its second TV transmitter. So the journey has been long from 35 to 72. Then in 1975, DD started another centers. Initially it was only two, Delhi and Calcutta, Delhi and Bombay. Now we have Madras, Lucknow and Calcutta. So these all had centers for what we call as Doordarshan. And Doordarshan was set up as a different entity only in 1976. So from its journey as coming under the BBC Lionel director, we had the Air India and DD together. Now only in 1976 it got its own identity, and also its own director general. Now sight was a milestone in bringing some sort of revolution that we may refer to as, and this milestone used NASA's ATS technology. It further helped broadcasting TV programs in 2400 villages. So up until now there were 50 TV sets, and along with that India had its own few others, and it helped the people around in and around these centers to watch television. It was indeed a luxury at that time. So after Sight came up with this ATS6 technology, 2400 villages could see the program, the TV programs, due to broadcasting. And what came in those channels were basically news, again educational content, general interest and cultural programs. But we need to notice that this is not a 24-hour running channel. So they had slots, and in these particular slots they used to air these programs, either news or educational content, general interest or cultural programs. Now NASA launched Indian National Satellite INSAT 1B in 1983, and this again was considered to be kind of a second revolution. In 1982, India hosted the Asian Games, and with this we also saw the color TV coming in India. Uh, in accordance with Asian Games, people were really happy to watch the Asian Games on television, and that too in a color TV. It was revolutionary. Again, we see 1980s indigenous soap operas became very popular. So in the 1980s, the beginning of what we call as soap operas or TV series came into place. The first program was Hum Log, which came in 1984, and this is a very interesting series because it talked about gender equality, national integration and smaller family size. Now, if we look into the TV series or web series of today's, we often find it very contradictory, the themes that they choose, especially revolving around violence and gender. These shows that came in the 1980s were way too evolved in a way, because they were talking about real issues, social issues like gender equality. In the 80s, we see the derogation and or the deterioration of gender representation happening with the arrival of Star, the kind of series which came into existence after that, post 2000. We see a different portrayal of women, and therefore we can say that this Hum Log was indeed a milestone program that ran in Doordarshan. Next we have Bunyad. Bunyad was a partition based program, and there were stories of families who had underwent partition, the traumas of partition, the pessimism, the sadness around it. And both these shows were basically catering to the middle class. The people, the characters who were playing, they were all playing middle class characters, and therefore the audience could relate more as compared to the later series or serials or soap operas that came. Now, after Hum Log and Bunyad, we have Mythology that followed. So, in 1988, approximately 90 million or 12% of the population was watching television, and only 62% lived in areas that were covered in by broadcasting. So, still India had a long way to go, but Mythology, in a way, it brought people closer. So the kind of scenarios that have been discussed in a locality, if there is a TV set in someone's house, the neighborhood people would gather to watch these mythological genres, and that is how its popularity kind of double folded. Now, the 1990s, during liberalization or just before liberalization, when the debates or the discussion on liberalization was taking its course, Star TV entered India. It was a Hong Kong based company, and with Star, certainly we see things changing for the Indian audience. Now, large cable TV industry also developed at that time, and many private channels also emerged during that time, like the Sun TV and all, which were very much Indian in nature. And with that, we also see we now come to the salient trends. These salient trends that we are now going to discuss tells us about the biasness that the Hindi language shows had towards the vernacular. Now, because in Hindi was a dominant language in the larger part of India, or in the northern part of India, we see the programs, Hindi language programs were more favored. Regional language programs were ghettoized. So, as I told you, it was divided into slots. It was not like it was a 24-hour running channel, and therefore major chunk of the time was dedicated to Hindi language shows or programs. Now, the politics also came along with it when we see Mr. L.K. Advani appropriating the imagery of DD's Ramayana for political purpose. This this TV series, the mythological TV series, it moved on for a quite long time, and during that we see LK Advani was a very prominent figure in BJP, and with that we see the association, how he was pushing. Now, this again has been discussed earlier, how advertisements played that role in pushing certain kinds of ideology. If we talk about and bring it back how Rajagopala has put it, we see that these shows were running in government run channels, but it was privately produced or privately sponsored. By 2001, urban India could tune in to somewhat around 70 channels, and by 2000, 461. So, it is a major achievement that we see by 2001 and 2009, which started with one channel, and now we see that it has reached to 70 channels, and also by 2009 to 461. By 1994 and 1996, what kind of changes this emergence of TV series witnessed? So, short programs aired in Doordarshan, and they kept these programs on Saturday and Sunday mornings. Basically, on Saturday and Sunday, it was a week like off day. So many people or the family could come together to watch these short programs, and that was the agenda for the family to come and watch the program together, and that was happening by 1994 and 1996. Weekdays were educational documentaries. Now, when we talk about the politics of media, the prime time shows running in and around 9 o'clock, what is the agenda, this TRP game that they talk about often? The popularity, the mass consumption of these kind of serials or series or soap operas. The weekdays program in Doordarshan, which is talking about educational documentaries, now they were mostly women, and women in India during that time were not highly educated, they were mostly homemakers. So these documentaries, they hardly saw. So they did not air any sort of program for people who were staying at home other than educational documentaries. Weekends had historical serials and animated shows for children. So we saw that a surge in programs on weekends, basically catering to the needs of children, historical series or drama, and animated shows. Now, one another very important popular show that came in Doordarshan was Surbhi, and it was hosted by Renuka Sahne and Siddharth Kar. Both of them were very spontaneous, and it was liked by the popular, imagination, and it was for very long time sponsored by Amul. It was kind of a talk show where these two hosts would read letters which were sent by people. Also, they would discuss other factors which were non-political, about everyday life, about the philosophies of life, and etc. Later, it shifted from DD to Star Plus. Another important show which came in DD or Doordarshan was Shanti. Now, as I was telling, or as we were discussing about the kind of portrayal of women we see in Doordarshan had been quite evolved as compared to what we see today. So even Shanti, for that matter, was dealing with social issues and about women and women empowerment, women emancipation. Now Shanti is the protagonist of this show, and she is an aspiring journalist. She decides to write a biography on two people. They were friends, Kamesh and Raj, and this brings about she talks about making a show on these two gentlemen, and later on it is revealed that she is actually looking out for his father. Either of the two is her father. Now in that process it tells about the uh, relationship between the family members and these men. The family's relationship is not as it should have been. It is quite broken. People are hiding things from one another. There is a lot of deceit, and that is how this series is moving. Now Shanti, a very determined woman, takes charge to portray the lives of these two people, and in the course also learn about who is the father. What happened few years back is Shanti's mother was a laborer and she was raped by Kamesh and Raj, and so we see sexual violence in this particular series. And then we also see how she is in a way trying to fight back, not lifting that didactic nature of women emancipation, but through in a very subtle uh, way. And that brings us to a thought that the kind of series that were made in those times gave women a lot of agency, while the series that came post 2000, we don't see women having a lot of agency. They are very limited to only household or family kind of relationships. Moving on to another show which was called Junoon, it aired till 1996. This series revolves around the rivalry between two patriarchs, two well-known families, Rajvansh and Dhanraj. So these are two family names and they are in conflict with each other. We also see that this business class contradiction or the clash between these business class happening post liberalization. So with liberalization, people started investing in business. They started new businesses. With that came a lot of competition and also disparities, and therefore we see it is actually talking about the very contemporary phase of India post liberalization. What is happening, these coming up of new elite class because of a lot of businesses that were happening, entrepreneurship, etc. Developments in broadcasting and cable. What are the developments that took place between 1990 and 2010? We see that the national was associated with the state controlled broadcaster Doordarshan, and then DD became a 24-hour channel by 2001. One could see the shift from Nehruvian socialism and secularism because it almost ended before the coming of liberalization around 1990s. And as mythological series such as Om Namah Shivaya and Jai Hanuman were still popular. So what happened with the development of broadcasting is more number of TV shows started emerging. Mostly people like the mythological series based on the epics, and we also see that now the age long Nehruvian socialism and secularism is leaving the screens. Star Plus took over with KBC. Now it was indeed a very magnetic and popular show, Kaun Banega Crorepati. It was hosted by Amitabh Bachchan. It's still hosted by Amitabh Bachchan. In between, there were few seasons where Shah Rukh Khan hosted the series, and these are the top A-list actors who are now debuting on television. It is remarkable for Star as well as for Amitabh Bachchan. In the 1990s, Amitabh Bachchan was declared bankrupt, and it was KBC that gave him a second life. So it is as important for star as important as Amitabh Bachchan, and it became a household name. Everyone were glued to the television when KBC was aired. Rise of private television. Now we saw that Star came to India in 1990, a Hong Kong based company, and from there we see the rise of private television happening, coming of the cable TV networks as well. Now during 1994 and 95, other satellites channels also started their service, and by 1996 we see ELTV coming in, Gen TV, and 3 other DD channels were launched. Now by 1996 we see 3 DD channels, and they were named as DD1, which was the primordial one that everyone used to watch. Then there was DD2 and there was DD Metro. So these were the 3 Doordarshan channels that were launched in 1996. Now in 1999 something very startling happened. When Star came to India, Star had no knowledge of the popular masses, of the popular imagination. Therefore, in order to cater to the needs, or in order to come up as a station who could facilitate the needs of the common populace, it took the help of Zee. So initially they had a joint venture, but was terminated in 1999. And after the termination, we see that Star could now air Hindi programs. Up until now, Star was in joint venture with Zee, and Zee was catering to the Hindi audience at that time, or the vernacular language at that time. But now Star, after the venture kind of split, Star directly competed with Zee with the Hindi shows, and with Sony and DD also. On the contrary, Zee was now launching new English channels. So it is in a way vice versa. Up until now, all the English channels were under the control of Star. All the Hindi channels and TV shows were under the control of Zee. Now they are taking a leap to cater to the other. Joshi remarks, the irony of this image makeover couldn't be starker. While the upmarket channel is working, the masses, the channel of the masses is now targeting the classes. So both of them, these 2 channels, have started catering to the needs of the other, and both ventured into newer dimensions. One talking about the classes, which is Zee, and the other talking about the masses, which is Star. Neoconservative portrayal of women with the rise of private television, we see it happening, began with primetime soaps in 2000 and 2001. So with 2000, we see with the coming of new century, neoconservative portrayal of women coming in. So in a way, we are moving again to the regressiveness of portrayal of women, how emancipated, how confident women were shown in the shows of Doordarshan. It is the opposite that is going to happen, but it is in a neoconservative portrayal. They have devised it in that manner to suit the taste of the popular masses. Unfortunately, family drama and negative portrayal of women came up until 2010. It's not that by 2010 it stopped, but then little by little people started moving on to OTT, and OTT was catering to the vernacular and different other subjects other than family drama and negative portrayal of women. Therefore, largely we can see it from 2000 to 2010. Rise of OTT. So there is another module entirely based on rise of OTT and the kind of content started coming. But just to give a glimpse, because it also is a another version of TV series or soap as we earlier called it. The digital technologies coincided with advancement in online streaming, and because of that we see coming of VOD, which is video on demand, and OTT, over the top platforms. They allow direct streaming of video content over the internet. With the age of internet and with the coming of Geo and uh, cheaper plans, cheaper subscription rates, we see now everyone has a phone, as they call it earlier, smartphone, and the demand for smartphones have also increased, so as the subscription of various other OTT platforms. The growth of OTT can be linked with the launch of Ditto TV. Now, if we go by the timeline, by 2010 we see that the negative portrayal or the neoconservative portrayal of women is very evident in all the TV series shows across the channels. But by 2012 it starts to change because of coming of OTT platform called Ditto. Initially also it struggled to launch certain programs, but we see that there is now the beginning point of changing in the portrayal of women. Now, Zee Entertainment Prices was the one that launched Ditto TV, which was the first ever OTT platform in India. This marked India's initial foray into homegrown OTT before coming of Netflix or Amazon. And then we see setting the stage for subsequent expansion of digital streaming services in the country just started. Next was followed by Eros. So, Eros basically came up with music. All these films that released its music, it was launched by Eros before T series came into place, and the picture quality of these videos, the sound quality was very good. Therefore, it became very popular immediately. Eros came also around the same time in 2012. Later on, we see Netflix coming in 2016 and Amazon Prime entering India in 2017, just one year after Netflix. There were other platforms that came, like, now we have Geo Cinema, we have also ZEE5, Viacom owned Voot we have. So, we have Hotstar, Disney's Hotstar as well, but these mark the change in the domain of what we call as content, which is Amazon and Netflix. Currently, India has 40 OTT streaming platforms. Now, this number is by Soma Munshi, and therefore, there every day, every year, there is an addition to the platforms or the OTT. Now, these OTTs vehemently established vernacular as king. Now, the kind of content that we are talking about, by 2010, the neo-portrayal or neo-conservative portrayal of women had almost ceased to exist in OTT. So, when OTT began, they did not repeat the same content that was there in TV, and therefore, we see that they established themselves as something called vernacular, dealing with local issues, local problems, talking about the everyday people, how their lives are, changing, rather than focusing on larger than life families that were portrayed in these series. The major shifts that we observe, and these major shifts again is very important, because these are the major shifts which tells us how the trends have been, or how the shifts have taken place in and around broadcasting and also internet and coming of OTT and also web series. Now, the reason for the major shifts that we see, first is the internet. Now, 1986 was the time when internet came to India, but it was only some research oriented institutions, the government bodies, who were able to access internet in 1986 or from 1986. It was up until 1995. Now on 15th August 1995, internet was made available for the common masses. So the change or the shift can be seen from 1995. Up until there, we see Doordarshan is doing pretty well. Then comes Star. But at that time, internet charges were pretty high, and therefore the affordability was a limitation. Now, by 2015, we see Digital India getting launched. This was launched by Government of India. The reason being, they wanted to connect the rural with the rest of the part of the India, and it became a success. It provided high speed internet, and with high speed internet, the buffering that people used to often complain about was almost eradicated. And then we see a phenomenal rise in mobile video streaming. It was not possible for people to carry their television sets with them and watch the series or the serials that they were usually watching. But with coming of OTT and with the coming of mobile video streaming, you could download the apps in your phone, also download and save the series or serials, and you can, whenever you are traveling or you are not home, you can just go ahead and watch it. So these were the kind of services that this mobile video streaming was providing, which made life easy for people. Next one was lower subscription rate. Now the internet reduced its prices. Initially when Jio came, they came up with a 99 rupees plan, and in that 99 rupees plan they used to give a limited amount of data along with free telephone or messaging within the same network. So it was indeed a revolution, especially for the young generation of that time, and therefore the accessibility became even more accessible. Now this low subscription rate were not only limited to internet or internet providers, it was also extended to the OTT platforms. With the low subscription rate of internet, we see low subscription rate for Alt Balaji as well, and Alt Balaji, known for adult content, only charged 100 rupees as subscription. Now everyone could afford in a way to have Alt Balaji app and can get adult content on their phone. Now with the trajectories that we have mapped up until now, where we can situate the major shifts in broadcasting, in coming of the TV series, we also should pay attention to after 2010 what happens. More of gangster or to spy thriller kind of series started emerging. To name a few, we could have The Sacred Games. We had other shows which were spy, thriller, gangster, dark drama, and it opened a new whole world for everyone, especially the masses who were so engrossed in television up until now. Now the divide in between the people who watched TV series and the people who started watching live video streaming on mobile, we can see the demarcation very clearly. Who are the people who are watching the TVs were basically women now, and the reason being why the prime time shows are so important and the craziness about the rating is this time the family comes together and eat, and the family coming together and eating at 9 o'clock was the target time where they could you know, get into the household. Basically, if we try to understand, men being at work the whole day and coming back and indulging in some sort of leisure time with watching these prime time shows was not a bad idea other than watching news. So urban population, even when women started to work, the urban population had this thing in mind that they are putting themselves into so much of stress in office and while doing other household chores. This was a time to relax, and it was seen as a mode of entertainment. They did not think about what kind of content is reaching to them. Instead, they thought that it is a way to release their stress. So, entertainment basically is sought as escape, and that was how it was being produced at that time.